Good morning and welcome to the Gold, Goats, and Guns Market Report for today, September 2nd, 2020. This is take 3, by the way, just so you know. I've got no housekeeping, so I'm going to get right to my commentary for the morning. Okay, I want to talk about Michael Flynn. If you guys haven't been following Viva Fry, I've got something in my throat, so if I have to stop and start here, it's something going weird. It's just something popped up between takes 1 and 2, and now I'm kind of screwed. But I got to get this thing done. So, if you've been watching Viva Fry on YouTube, who I do recommend highly if you want to understand what's happening with various court cases, he's very, very good. And his live streams with Robert Barnes are also very good, though I don't really have the time to watch them all the time. But he's been covering the Michael Flynn case very, very well. And the latest twist and turn in the Michael Flynn case is it's perfectly predictable, not just because of the politics and the and who appointed the various judges in the DC District Court, but because of the politics behind all of these decisions. The Department of Justice has filed a motion to dismiss the case, and the judge won't let it happen. We all know this, and we've gone through a whole bunch of rigmarole since then to keep Flynn under wraps. And I've covered this before, and it's to keep Michael Flynn from being able to speak freely about what's happening. And what was interesting is listening to Fry talk about this is that he went through all this and he said, look, back in June, I said, this is what's going to happen. The appeals court, the DC appeals court, the district court is going to go and say, look, Judge Sullivan, you know what you have to do. Dismiss the case, or go through all of the steps that you need to go through, but then you're going to dismiss this case because you can't stop the prosecution from dismissing the case. All you can do is delay it. And that's exactly what they've been doing. And they've been delaying it for political reasons. And Sullivan's gotten exactly what he wanted. He's now extended the timetable. And I thought it was really funny that Fry, being a little bit of a clueless Canadian, I wouldn't say clueless, naive Canadian, it's like, why would they do this? Well, they do this because the election is all that matters. Keeping Michael Flynn on ice until after the election is all is all they're doing here, because this is just extend and pretend. It's just drowning people, otherwise known as Obama, drowning and desperately clinging on to whatever they can get to stay afloat until after the election, hoping that the election turns their way and then they can bury the whole freaking thing. That's what this is about. That's why Hillary's out there going, don't concede, Joe Biden. And that's why Pelosi's saying, I'm going to be president. And that's why Obama's not saying anything and letting BLM and Antifa take the heat when it's really when it's almost definitely OFA who's actually organizing all of this stuff. And he goes out there and says, these BLM guys are far better organizers than me. Ha, 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 ha. Ah, bullshit. You're the one driving all this stuff in the first place out of your townhouse in DC, where you've been running a shadow government for 4 years. Come on. Pull the other leg and plays Jingle Bells. You frickin' vandal. So understand that Obama's the enemy here. And Trump knows it. And pushing Obama's buttons and keeping him in the background for as long as possible so that Obama can't campaign for Biden is what Trump is doing. What Obama is doing is trying to keep Trump from having any ammunition whatsoever to keep him out of the debate, to keep him out of the campaign for as long as possible, right? So, and Michael Flynn is the fulcrum here. Because once Flynn is free, Flynn gets to turn right on Obama immediately. Obamagate becomes front page frickin' news, which Trump can run with. He gets acquitted in a court of law so that there's no political angle on this. Because again, this is all about trying to push the Flynn case to the point of Trump having to pardon Flynn as a political process. And then they can say, well, Michael Flynn was never exonerated for real. He was only exonerated by his buddy Donald Trump, yada, yada, yada. And it's all just terrible politics for the purpose of trying to shore up and keep the rabid crazies rabidly crazy until after the election. That's all this is about. And it's pathetic. And it shows you the depth of their depravity and how desperate they are. to win this election. Meanwhile, mayors all over this country, realizing what they've done, are reversing course left and right, except for head soy boy himself, Ted Wheeler, out in Portland, who said, I'm going to move out of my building so it's no longer going to be firebombed. I don't want my neighbors' houses to be firebombed. Like, that's the solution to the problem. I'll move out. Wow. Like, dude, seriously, how pathetic are you? You're going to single-handedly turn Oregon red if you don't, like, allow a vague, stray thought that's remotely logical through your vegan, anoxic brain. Jackass. Thank you, by the way. Great. Same thing's going on with Muriel, whatever her name is, in frickin' DC. All right, that one, Mike Stoyanovich sent me an article this morning from Just in Time News, or one of these crank conservative websites, and I say crank with all amounts of respect, because these guys don't, you know, they're trying to do the best work they can with very limited resources to try and get real information out there. And apparently, she's issued orders to the district attorneys in DC, who are all, you know, on the freaking Soros payroll, that you have to arrest the people, you have to charge the people that we arrest. She's getting nervous, because if you don't start doing this, what's going to happen is the following. DC is not a state. It's federal property. It's an administrative district that's under federal control. If they don't do their job, if the district attorneys refuse to do their job or the, you know, whatever they're called in DC, if the government attorneys in DC don't do their job, then Trump can easily just suspend the whole freaking facade of administrative government over the city and just roll the troops in and do whatever the hell he wants and literally take control of the city, because it's federal property. So she's now beginning to shit the bed. Okay? 6 mayors in Minneapolis all flip parties and now endorse Trump. Same thing is beginning to happen in Wisconsin. Okay? Things are happening out there that are real. And all politics is local. And, you know, I talked about this in the article I wrote on Monday to remind everybody that none of these cities are going to go blanket Democrat. There's going to be House races in California, Wisconsin, Minnesota, New York that are going to flip over the looting and the rioting. New York, if the census was if this was 2019 and the census was next year, there are so many people leaving New York City right now. New York State would lose at least 2 electoral votes just because of the exodus in the last 6 months. I mean, do you realize that New York could be down to 25 electoral votes? Well, could have been down to 25 electoral votes had they run this operation a year previously. That's how bad it's going to be. Now, who's leaving? Well, I doubt it's. I don't know. It's going to be a mix of, you know, shit libs and Republicans. Hopefully, all the Republicans come to Florida, or better, since Florida's already uniquely crazy enough, and they're never going to turn it purple or red or blue. Send those people to North Carolina to shore that place up. You know, I don't know. Whatever. Not that I recommend anybody live in North Carolina. The freaking capital handling rules and banking rules in that state are off the charts bad. I don't recommend anybody. Everybody I know who's ever worked or lived in North Carolina and then moved out of it has had nothing but problems with the state for years afterwards. It's really bad. But that rant off. Beautiful place to visit. Just, you know, the state government is just bad. New Jersey is the most hated state in the union. People are leaving in droves. Like, what do they think is going to happen here? And at the same time, I went to 270 to win this morning after publishing the chart on Monday in the article, where all the battleground states flipped to leans Trump. And now they're all back today to toss-ups, except for Texas. Okay? Which is a lie, because the polls have all shifted farther towards Trump. The betting odds have now moved in Trump's favor. It was on Zero Hedge this morning. Those numbers are going to continue to rise. They have nothing. By the time, if this continues, they're going to have to create a false flag. Joaquin Flores over at Fort Rusty the other day said, look, the only option that they have at this point is to create a false flag and blame some massive amount of violence, which will happen in late October, on Trump supporters. That's what's coming next. And they're going to try and they'll most probably try and do it in D.C. Siege White House, or White House siege, starts in a little over 2 weeks. I already, if Trump's listening, or if anybody in the Trump campaign is listening, this is what you do. You immediately take control of the city between now and then. And as the buses start coming in, to bust these people in from around the country, because they're going to try and put 250,000 people on the streets in order to rush the White House and create a media event, color revolution coup the day after the election. If you win, as those buses start to come in, you pipe them, you turn those buses right around and you move them to the shadow government facilities underneath Virginia. And you feed them confinement loaf for the next 60 days. That's what you do. All right? Period. And it's even vegetarian. It's bean byproduct pressed into a loaf. I'm quoting Frank Zappa here from Broadway the Hard Way. Like, yeah, you give them confinement loaf and you stick in a cup of water and you say you'll be let out after election day. Oh, we'll make sure you get your mail-in ballots. We'll take a census. And all of you can vote. But conspiracy to commit mayhem. Bye. We've got and we've deputized that facility underneath Virginia. And you all get to go look at 1950s architecture of what the shadow government would look like in the case of a nuclear bomb. Just put them there and leave them there. Get them out. Just get them off the streets. Don't let that stuff even start. Done. Period. You don't have to bust anybody's heads. It's like, nope, sorry, you're just not good. Nope, sorry. This is a riot-free zone. This is a protest-free zone. I'm sorry, we're doing this. I don't care if it's unconstitutional. We're operating under 19 different states of emergency. Pick one. Invoke it. Move on with your bad self. Let the DC District Court freak out. And just talk to the hand and be done with it. And everybody in the rest of the country will be like, thank God. But, they know at this point that they've lost the election. So now all they can do is, and that's the dominant narrative. Oh, it looks like Trump's going to win in a landslide, but the Democrats are still going to select the next president. That's everywhere right now. There was an article I got sent to me last night. Hold on for just a second. Let me pull up my thing. Sent to me by a friend of mine last night. All right. So data confirms, this came from Axios. Data firm predicts election chaos as Trump seems to win in a landslide, but loses after more votes are counted. They're now just seeding this narrative into the media that we're not going to choose we're not going to select our president on election night. Forget that. It's not going to happen. The Democrats are not going to accept the election. They're going to ballot harvest for weeks until they get the result they want. That cannot be allowed to happen. And under no circumstances can anybody even look at that and say that's a legitimate election. Period. And I'm okay with Trump just declaring himself dictator at that point, saying, suspend the Constitution, we're done. Put Pelosi in jail for sedition. Put Clinton in jail. Put Obama in jail. Put them all in jail for sedition. Let them all freak out. Let them all create a friggin', oh my God, let Don Lemon literally lose his mind on CNN. Who cares at this point? Because if you don't stop these people, they're going to destroy what's left of our society. Period. Sorry, this is what they're going to do. And then we're going to have to, and then it's going to be mass hysteria. You wait until they actually, what's the word I'm looking for? They actually go there, and then you just take them at their word, and then you just put the hammer down on them. It's that simple. They're going to talk about disenfranchisement Disenfranchisement, they're going to think that they can play games in the media. Fine, I'm disenfranchising you. Pelosi, go to jail. Meet Bubba. He's got something to say about your hairstyle. Let's look at the 270 to win map as I think it's going to happen. Like I said this morning, all of these states, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida is back to a toss-up. Arizona is supposed to be a toss-up. Pennsylvania is supposed to be a toss-up. North Carolina is supposed to be a toss-up. Nonsense. Latest polls have Trump up by 5 in Minnesota, 3 in Wisconsin, 3 in Florida, 4 in Arizona. It's ridiculous. Forget it. This is my map. I don't know about Nevada because in a small state like Nevada, they can actually pull off massive voter fraud, enough voter fraud to flip the state. So I'll leave it as a toss-up. You'll notice I don't have Oregon as hard blue. I don't think Oregon is going. I think if Biden wins Oregon, it'll be by 3 points. And I think you'll see at least 1 or 2. You might even see a congressional flip. Pennsylvania, no way in hell with polling data telling us that Trump's approval rating amongst blacks is up to 28% and Hispanics 41%. Biden can't win the election. Anything above 15% they can't, and black support, they can't win. Anything above 30% Hispanics, they can't win. Those numbers are going to improve between now and election day. Pennsylvania, those guys didn't show up for Hillary in 2016 in Philadelphia. They're not going to show up in 2020 for Biden. If anything, they show up for Trump. And then they've got to work overtime to do even more voter fraud. Meanwhile, the Amish are registering the vote in ways, in levels we've never seen. And the Amish vote is significant in Pennsylvania and Ohio. These are votes that are completely off the grid. They're completely off everybody's radar. And they won't matter, but they will matter. One could argue that the Amish delivered Trump Pennsylvania in 2016. Let's see what happens when all of them vote in 2020. I think New York is not hard Trump anymore either. And I think that New Mexico is in play. 41% Hispanic support. New Mexico's in play. So is Arizona's not in play. Texas isn't in play. Okay? You know, people don't like disorder. They don't like chaos. And there's no way for the Democrats to come back with what they've done. So all they can do is steal the election. And they're telling you they're going to try and steal the election. They're telling you this is what the strategy is. So I think he wins with a slightly bigger margin than he had in 2016. I think that this map is election tampering proof, especially if Nevada and New Mexico go his way. There's not going to be an argument. And the thing about it is that with Biden being unable to campaign or even speak in public, okay, and with Trump showing no signs of slowing down, and having enough money this time, he can campaign and go to places and force them to spend money in places that they don't think they need to spend money in. He goes to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and there's a 15-mile long stream of people to see him. You think Wisconsin's going to go Biden? If you do, you need to have your head examined, because it's not going to happen. But wherever he forces them to spend money, like he did in 2016. In 2016, their election strategy was perfect. Hillary didn't think that she needed to campaign in the Rust Belt. She figured between the voter fraud and voter inertia and bringing enough of the Bernie bros back online that she'd never have to campaign there. And then their internal polling in the last 2 weeks before the election showed them that they were in trouble in Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the rest of them, Pennsylvania. And then Obama was out in, Dearborn and Detroit the weekend before the election. They had to bring Obama off the sidelines to try and help Clinton. It didn't work, right? He might have just barely squeaked it by. I think it didn't. I think Michigan actually went for Hillary, and so did Minnesota, but just barely. All right, but Trump wound up winning Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, and that was enough. And so Trump's going to go into New York, guys. He's going to go into New Jersey. Okay? He's going to force them to spend money there. He's going to go to New Mexico. He may go to Oregon. And, start to think about what happens there, and the polls start to shift even further away from them in those places. What happens if New Mexico officially becomes a toss-up? Because Trump spends, a couple $1 million on advertising and, shows up and shows up and does a rally or something, something there. In New Mexico. Like, why is Trump going to New Mexico? Oh, we're going to go look at the wall or whatever. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, and they have to spend money in New Mexico, which they don't want to spend. Gary Johnson's not going to be running in New Mexico this time. There's no way that Joe Jorgensen's going to pull 9% of the vote to make sure that New Mexico goes Biden. Like, the libertarians are all going to vote. If they vote at all, they're all going to vote for Trump in 2020. If they're smart, in places like New Mexico and Oregon. They're not going to look at foreign policy. If they're smart, they're not going to look at foreign policy first. They're going to look at what's happening in the actual country first. But, never underestimate the libertarians' ability to undermine their own political advantage. The best thing they could do right now, as a party and as a voting bloc in this country, is to get on Team Trump and kill Clinton and kill off what's left of Obama and the Clintonistas. It's absolutely the best thing you can do tactically and strategically. There's no other option. But the LP, God knows what they're going to do. So, because those people are crazy. But we'll see. I don't know. What happens if there's another incident in a place like Charlottesville? Could it flip Virginia? The biggest thing you have to worry about at this point is a false flag. And we're already seeing the beginnings of that. Joaquin Flores over at Fort Russ had a great article the other day about all of this, saying, look, the only chance that the Democrats have at this point is to create a false flag incident where BLM Antifa operatives go in posing as Trump supporters and create violence and, kill a bunch of people. That's their only option at this point. And of course, don't put it past them, because they will. Because that's how color revolutions are enacted. That's why Trump cannot allow the White House siege to actually take place. Period. Can't let it happen. And can't let the mayor of D.C., virtue signal that she's actually going to stop the violence. Because she's not. She wants to get rid of the Washington Monument because it's racist. Let's get to the charts. I'll get you out of here. Let's talk about gold. And we're going to go through the markets pretty quick today. There's not really that much to talk about. Gold was rejected from 2,000. Bitcoin was rejected from 12,000. Silver was rejected from 29. All of these things happened in the last 12 hours. It's good to see that we got breaks of the last week's high in gold. We got the same thing happen in silver, and might have happened in Bitcoin. I'm not sure. What's important here is that the one bar reversal from a few weeks ago is still dominant. We're now building a new base here between 1,900 and 2,000 in gold. There's somebody stepping up underneath this market to keep it buoyant, even though it looks like the dollar is beginning to firm up. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about when we get to the euro later in the podcast. All right, so gold looks strong here, surprisingly strong. It's a good thing. It means that it's beginning to decouple from the dollar on a day-to-day trading, in a structural sense, but at day-to-day it could, do its thing. Just keep watching to see that the futures price stays on a consistent basis above the cash price. As long as that continues, gold is in contango when it should be in backwardation, and therefore future supply is in deficit, and that's pulling the price higher. Same thing's happening in silver. Futures premium this morning was 24 cents after the push down, after the cram down. That's fine. But look at what we had this week. We not only got a break of last week's high, we got a break of the high from 2 weeks ago. Again, they're rejecting silver above 28 bucks. Fine. They don't want to see any kind of technical reversal signal. But again, higher highs, this downtrend in silver, this flag pattern has not been broken. Now we're looking for horizontal closes. So let's look for a close above this last week's high this week, so above $28, or even a close above this high. We'll see what happens. A lot of trading can happen between now and then, but that's what I would suggest. If trading patterns hold, no one wants to go into the weekend bearish gold and silver. A lot of gold and silver buying happening. It to surprise me on Friday afternoons, as opposed to the other way around, where they want to bang it down to demoralize people on the weekly close. So just let's watch that. But we've got follow through. These charts were produced this morning. We've had further movement down since then, when I finally pushed record and got a good take. All right, moving on to Bitcoin. Same thing here in Bitcoin. Where it looks like they're trying to push a wash down below 11,000. What's interesting is that, and I don't have it here, I'm going to show you on the next chart, right, which I never do, and I'm going to show you some very interesting stuff that happened last night as to actually affect this cram down, because yesterday we were trading at 12,000 and everybody was like, yeah, here we go, breaking higher, yeah, great, and then boom, we're dragged back down into the 11.3, 11.2 area. Why? This. Now, because of the way Excel works, when I try to do a price and volume chart, I can't put price over here and volume over here, or the other way around. I either have, if I want the volume and the candlesticks to line up in time and not have one reversed relative to the other, I have to put both axes on the left-hand side. It's just the way Excel works. It's really freaking annoying. It's why I don't usually do price and volume charts at the same time, because of this. I was thinking about this morning, but I want you to note the size of the bar, the volume bar for today. Last night, Bitcoin was trading at around 12,000, and then all of a sudden, over a 15-minute, or over, not 15-minute, but about an hour and a half period, 3 different 5-minute periods, we saw massive dumping, or massive volume, not necessarily dumping, but massive volume in Bitcoin, which did push the price down and pushed it away from 12 grand back towards the 11.8 area. But that was all I was able to do. And then we had follow-through action with the firming of the dollar today, and a intraday reversal signal on the euro. Okay, so yeah, we have a daily reversal signal here after a breakout to the upside. And yesterday we had that breakout here, which helped to negate this downtrend. And now we have what's a very clear consolidation pattern here on the daily chart. But this volume bar, look at the size of the volume bar. Look at the size of the volume bar when Bitcoin went down into the dip below 4,000 during the spasm, and people were dip buying. There's only like 5 million Bitcoins. This is 21 million Bitcoins effectively traded in the last 24 hours. Oh, hell, 12 hours, 14 hours. That's the entire float of Bitcoin once it's finished. And that's easily 20 to 25 times what the actual effective liquid float of Bitcoin is. Because I put that at around 1 million coins. I don't think there's more than 1 million coins that are actually being traded on a daily basis. Okay. And note that volume in here has been 5, 6, 700,000 a day, 21 million. Wow. The euro. The euro yesterday broke above $1.20, but it can't hold it. And the last I checked, it was trading at 118.3, which would put it at well below this week's open. Again, look this week for another bearish close on the euro below $1.18. With this, especially with this candlestick here. Yeah, we're getting higher highs every time, and yeah, we're getting higher lows, but this is not a committed up pattern at all. Yeah, there's a lot of people trying to hold the euro above $1.18 because they want to continue the fiction that the dollar is going the way of the dodo. You see it everywhere in the financial press. The dollar is going to die, and it's all Trump's fault, and blah, 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 blah. Now here's the United States 10-year bond. If the dollar was going to die, why have we seen a 12, 13 point basis point move down in the 10-year bond yield in the last 4 trading days? Would someone care to explain that to me? Or in the immortal words of Ellen Ripley, have IQs dropped suddenly? This makes sense with this. There's huge demand for U.S. assets. Look at what's happening in the stock markets. Look at what's happening in the bond markets. Look at what's happening in gold. And anybody wants to believe that the dollar is capable of losing further ground to the frickin' euro? Okay. If anything, this is another one of those blow-off top repatriation trades where there was a spasm in the euro market yesterday and the day before. Just don't buy it. I just don't believe it. Just don't. A weak dollar actually helps Trump here. It keeps the stock market buoyant. It's all, but they keep running this dumb narrative that, oh, the dollar's going to die because of Trump's bad fiscal policy. Like, are you crazy? It's just dumb. They are just dumb. All right. Last thing to talk about this morning is the Dow Jones. We still, so far this week, have not broken last week's high, which actually, as of this morning, we hadn't broken last week's high. As of the open, which I did check before I hit record the third time, we did break above that. So we do have an outside bar for this week to the upside. The Dow is now has officially, over the course of the next 3 days, a less than 10% chance to break the all-time high. I don't think it's going to get there this week, but I do believe we're going to continue to grind higher towards that all-time high. I do believe, I will be very shocked if we get a move above the all-time high here. I think there's going to be, I think the correction is beginning when I see the way the euro is trading now. You know, I just can't believe that we're going to continue to have weak dollar, high stocks, high, you know, and continued buying in the bond market. I just don't see it. At some point, there has to be a reckoning, and there has to be another attempt to take something away from President Trump. It has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, then we're going to get a ballistic move in U.S. stocks when we should be getting a sell-off. If we don't get that sell-off and we get a move higher, then it's going to go crazy, and the Dow's going to go to 35, and the Nasdaq's going to go to 15, and gold's going to go to $2,500 an ounce, and that's going to be the end of it. I think there's going to be a correction before the election. Then Trump's going to win, and the markets are going to snuff out that the Democrats don't have a leg to stand on in terms of their attempting to seize control of the White House, and therefore we're going to get a massive dollar and U.S. asset bull wave in Q4 to ride out the rest of the year. That's my dominant scenario at this point, with Trump winning because of that map. Right? I'm going to leave this up as I go. You guys take care. Oh, I got to find the music. Where is it? Cue it. Where's the music? So you guys take care. We will talk soon, and we'll talk next week. Keep a sec on the ice.